Hey everybody, today we're going to be looking at how I achieved the tone for the playthrough I did for my band Nautilus vs. Pangolin song, Burnga. I did a poll on Instagram and it seems like a lot of people really wanted to see how I achieved this tone, so we're going to be going over how I got this tone and which plugins I used and how I dialed them in. Now I haven't really done like a software video, I usually mainly stick to hardware, so this is going to be something new for me and hopefully it turns out okay. If you see me looking up here, I have screenshots of the original tones I used for the video, and I also have OBS open to make sure everything's running since I've never used this before. So yeah, if you see me glancing up here, then just referencing, making sure everything's working. Also, for this recording, I used my NS Design Wave Radius bass. These basses are awesome. If you're in the market for a bass, go ahead and check them out on the NS Design website and pick one up. They have a few of these left in stock, so like I said, if you're interested, go ahead and try one out. They're definitely worth it. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so right off the back, I'm going to go ahead and explain how I have everything set up. So at the very top in blue, I have the backing track with no bass. This is what that sounds like. So no bass at all on that one. This is my DI bass in pink. This is what I recorded for the video, and this is the tone or the track we'll be editing. On top of that, I have a dirty bass sound and a poppy bass sound. As we go through this, I'll go ahead and talk more about it in depth and show you how I edit for these particular sounds, especially in this context. So right away, I'm going to go ahead and copy the DI bass onto the dirty bass track, which is up here in green. So I'm going to control, click, drag up. Oh wait, that didn't work. There we go. Control, click, drag up. And let's change the color to keep everything organized. And there we go. So now we have our DI bass duplicated twice. So right away, I'm going to go ahead and solo the dirty bass tone and try to get a nice crisp bass tone on its own. Then we'll go ahead and make sure that we adjust this to the actual mix and make sure that the bass part is complementing it. And keeping in mind that this is for a bass playthrough, we do want the bass to come out a bit. So yeah, let's get into that. So for the dirty bass tone, I am going to have a tube screamer. I'm going to have the Dark Glass Ultra right after that. The bottom down here is going to be your signal chain, so it's going from left to right. Like if you're using pedals, imagine the signal is going from left to right. So tube screamer into the Dark Glass Ultra, into an EQ, which I'm going to grab from here, and then a compressor. So that is my signal chain. That's all I used for the dirty sound. First of all, I had the tube screamer, so we'll go ahead and check that out. And we'll go ahead and play the bass part. Okay, so that's just with the tube screamer going into the dark glass. So now I'm going to go ahead and adjust the dark glass because I like where that tube screamer is sitting, and that's more or less where I had it in the original video. Okay, so that's more or less where I had it with the dark glass setting. Now, something interesting that I like to do with these tones is right here, you see this blend knob? Well, this blend knob blends your DI tone with your drive tone, but I like to make sure that I'm getting the best out of my distortion with the dark glass plugin, and then I manually mix in the DI tone right here where the pink track is. So that's going to be where I have my dark glass tone, and we'll go ahead and make sure that we get all the nice low end right here with the DI bass, because you want to have that nice, I like to have a little bit of fret buzz in there. I have my action really low, so that's what gives it more of the clingy, clanky bass tone in my opinion, while not overdoing it, you know. So let's move on to the EQ and compression. I'll adjust this to where I had it for the video, and I'll go ahead and adjust it manually for this particular mix. Okay, so I like where that's sitting on its own. I'm gonna go ahead and move on to the DI bass tone. So for the DI bass tone, all I had on here was gonna be compression first and then into an EQ. Usually I do an EQ into the compressor, but for some reason, this is what worked. So let's go ahead and listen to it soloed. Or actually, let's listen to it with the dirty bass tone. Alright, so I'm liking where that's sitting right now together. So now let's listen to everything in the entire mix. Alright, so I'm liking where that's at right now, actually. If you look over here where the levels are, I did this before because I was kind of messing with the tracks beforehand, but I have the backing track at minus 4.4 dB, the dirty bass at minus 0.5 dB, and the DI bass just 0. So next I'm going to move on to this poppy bass. Now this is one part that I kind of found over here in this area that I wanted to bring out the DI a little bit more, so I'll go ahead and run down the tones I got for that. Okay, so the part I was referring to is right here. Now, if you listen to it, I feel like the drive is a little bit too harsh, and I want to get more of the DI bass, more raw sound of the bass in the slaps right here. Right there. So I'm going to go ahead and take out the section from the dirty bass and move it over to the poppy bass section. And that, you just have to zoom in. Let's see, find the start. Here. To around here. So I'll go ahead and highlight that. You might have to zoom in a little bit more to get those lines in there. Now, since this was a playthrough performance, this isn't super clean where everything is lined up and quantized perfectly, so it makes it a little bit more challenging, but definitely a fun challenge. So once you have your part selected, you'll go ahead and move it down. Now it takes it out of the dirty bass. Ooh, it says DI. Let me rename it dirty. So that takes it out of the dirty bass and moves it over to this section, which we're gonna rename the poppy bass. And change the color to yellow, just to keep everything organized. Now, this section isn't supposed to be in the poppy bass, so I'm gonna carefully remove that and add it back over here. So it's a fluid bass. There you go. So there you go. So the bass line is fluid and there's no cuts or anything. So how I have this poppy bass tone going, I have the same signal chain as the dirty bass, so it's going to be a tube screamer going into the dark glass. Then I'm going to add an EQ and then a compressor. Now I'm going to open up the Tube Screamer and set it to where I had it for the video, which is here. Now this Tube Screamer setting is around the same place I had it for the heavy or the dirty bass. The real change is going to be in the EQ and the dark glass. Now for the dark glass, I had it set as follows. Have the blend back a bit because I want more of the DI. So now I'm going to take the DI from the pedal here and blend it with the drive tone. Turn down the drive a bit. Put the attack up. Grunt dead center. Turn down the bass just a little bit. Turn up the high mids and turn up the treble because I want that poppy sound. By the way, these are the microphones and positions I'm using. I didn't change this for anything. So if you want to pause it here and take a look at that, you can. All right, so let's listen to how it sounds right now before we add EQ and compression, or mess with the EQ and compression. Let me back it up for some context. There you go. So you're starting to hear a little bit more of the raw string sound here. So now we're going to go ahead and look at the EQ and compressor. So again, I'm going to go ahead and set this more or less to where I had it for the video, which is around there. And the compression is going to be around here. Right now I'm just eyeballing it, and we'll go in and refine, like I said, for the mix itself. There you go. So the compression is around the same settings as I had it for the dirty bass as well. So let's go ahead and listen. Okay, that's really mean sounding, but also really clean. I like that right there, so I'm going to go ahead and leave it. For this poppy bass sound, since it is on its own, I went ahead and lowered it to -3 dB. So something else I want to get out there is in silent spaces like this, it's good to go ahead, it's good to go ahead and take them out so you can get a cleaner sound, just something like that. Because you can always add a noise gate, but I think when you remove sections like that in the middle that you're not playing manually, that makes sure that those silences are super quiet and there's nothing going on there. For these tracks, I already consolidated them, so I don't need to do that. But yeah, so let's go ahead and jam some of the parts and make sure that all the levels are sounding good and everything is working out fine and complementing each other, and the bass is doing what it's supposed to do for a bass playthrough. Okay, so everything is sounding really good, and I like how that's flowing together. So just to add the final touches on the master track, I'm going to go ahead and add a compressor. Don't worry about this. This is for the streaming to capture the audio out of my master track. So the compressor, I'm going to go ahead and make sure that this is gluing everything together, as you could tell in the name, Glue Compressor. So let's go ahead and just jam some parts again, and I'll adjust the compressor. Alright, so that's going to complete the video. I'm really happy with this remake of the tone, and I hope you learned something from this video. If you did, go ahead and like the video. Also share it if you'd like. So yeah, thanks for watching, everybody.